the windows of the small coffee shop tucked away on a quiet street in downtown Vancouver. The warm glow of pendant lights hung over rustic wooden tables, creating islands of amber in the otherwise dim interior. It was that perfect hour, late enough that the morning rush had subsided, early enough that the lunch crowd hadn't yet arrived. Mia Chen clutched her worn leather messenger bag tightly against her side as she pushed through the door, the gentle chime announcing her entrance. Water dripped from her navy blue raincoat onto the worn floorboards. Her dark hair clung to her face in damp tendrils, and she brushed them away with a frustrated swipe. "Just a black coffee, please," she said to the barista, her voice barely audible over the ambient music and the rhythmic drumming of rain. She fumbled in her pocket for cash, sliding a $5 bill across the counter. "Name?" the barista asked, marker poised over a paper cup. "Mia." She moved to the side, watching raindrops race down the window while waiting for her coffee. 3 days in Vancouver, and she hadn't seen a single break in the clouds. But she hadn't come for the weather. "Black coffee for Mia," called the barista, sliding the steaming cup onto the counter. With coffee in hand, Mia scanned the room for an empty seat. The shop was only half full, a couple tapping away on laptops, an elderly man reading a newspaper, two friends deep in conversation, and a solitary figure in the corner, face partially obscured by a worn paperback. Something about his stillness drew her attention. He wore a simple black t-shirt and jeans, a dark beanie pulled low over his forehead. His beard was slightly unkempt, and he seemed utterly absorbed in his book, unaware or unconcerned with his surroundings. There was an empty table next to him. Mia hesitated, then walked toward the vacant table. As she approached, she caught a glimpse of his profile and nearly spilled her coffee. Her heart leaped into her throat. Keanu Reeves. It was actually him. She had imagined this moment countless times over the past 3 days, rehearsed what she would say if she ever found him. Vancouver was his hometown, and she'd known he sometimes filmed here, but the city was large, and the chances of randomly encountering him had seemed infinitesimal. Yet here he was, reading quietly in a corner of a nondescript coffee shop. Mia sat down at the empty table, trying to appear casual while her mind raced. She sipped her coffee, barely tasting it, and stole glances at him from behind her cup. He turned a page, completely engrossed in his book. She couldn't mess this up. This might be her only chance. After 10 minutes of silent deliberation during which she hadn't taken a single meaningful sip of her now cooling coffee, Mia gathered her courage. She stood, smoothed her raincoat, took a deep breath, and approached his table. He didn't notice her at first, lost in whatever world existed within the pages of his book. "Mr. Reeves?" Her voice came out as a whisper, barely audible even to herself. He looked up, warm brown eyes meeting hers. There was neither annoyance nor excitement in his expression, just a gentle curiosity. "Yes," he said, his voice that familiar low timbre she'd heard in countless films. Mia's prepared speech evaporated from her mind. Her mouth went dry. The entire coffee shop seemed to fade away until it was just the two of them, suspended in this impossible moment. And then, instead of the careful, thoughtful words she had rehearsed, she blurted out 3 simple words: "She's been taken." His expression changed instantly. The calm, curious look vanished, replaced by intense focus. He closed his book and stood up. "Who's been taken?" he asked, his voice low and urgent. Mia's hands began to shake. "My sister, Lucy." Chapter 2. The message Keanu Reeves had encountered countless fans over his decades in the spotlight. Some wanted autographs, others photos, and a few simply wanted to express gratitude for his work. But this was different. The young woman before him wasn't starstruck. She was terrified. "Sit down," he said gently, gesturing to the chair across from him. "Tell me what happened." Mia sat, her movements mechanical. Her coffee remained on her table, forgotten. "I shouldn't have approached you," she said, her voice trembling. "This is crazy. You're gonna think I'm insane." "I don't think you're insane," Keanu replied, his voice calm but firm. "Something's wrong, and you need help. Start from the beginning." Mia took a deep breath, her hands clasped tightly together to stop their shaking. "My name is Mia Chen. My sister Lucy disappeared 3 days ago in Vancouver. She's a graduate student at UBC, studying environmental science. We're from Seattle originally." The words began to tumble out faster. "She was supposed to meet me for dinner, but she never showed up. Her roommate hadn't seen her since that morning. We called the police, but they said adults go missing all the time, that she probably just took off somewhere. They didn't take it seriously. Keanu listened intently, his expression grave. And why did you come to me with this? Mia reached into her messenger bag and pulled out a folded piece of paper. She unfolded it carefully and placed it on the table between them. It was a photograph of Lucy, a young woman with the same dark hair as Mia, but with rounder features and a bright smile. She was standing in front of what looked like a research facility, wearing a lab coat. On the back of the photograph, written in hurried handwriting, were the words, "If anything happens to me, find Keanu Reeves. He'll know what to do." Keanu stared at the photograph for a long moment, his brow furrowed. "I've never met your sister," he said finally, looking up at Mia. "I know it sounds crazy," Mia said, her voice cracking. "But yesterday, Lucy's roommate found this hidden in a book in her room. She called me right away." "And you flew to Vancouver because of this note?" "I was already here. I came as soon as she missed our dinner. I've been looking for her for 3 days. Mia's eyes welled with tears. "I've gone to the police every day. I've visited her department at the university. I've talked to her friends and colleagues. No one knows anything, or at least that's what they're telling me." Keanu picked up the photograph again, studying it carefully. "This facility," he said, tapping the background of the image. "Do you know where this is?" Mia shook her head. "Lucy never mentioned it. She was working on her thesis about environmental impacts of coastal industrial development. She visited lots of sites." Keanu pulled out his phone and dialed a number. "John," he said when someone answered, "I need your help. Meet me at the usual place in 30 minutes. He listened for a moment. "Yes, it's important." He ended the call and looked at Mia. "I know someone who might be able to help us. He has connections that I don't." "You believe me?" Mia asked, disbelief evident in her voice. "I believe that you're genuinely worried about your sister," Keanu replied carefully. "And this note," he tapped the photograph, "is strange enough to warrant investigation." He stood and put on a dark jacket that had been hanging on the back of his chair. "Finish your coffee," he said. "We're going to meet someone." Chapter 3. The Confidant. The rain had intensified by the time they left the coffee shop, drumming against the hood of Keanu's modest dark blue Volvo as they drove through Vancouver's downtown streets. Mia sat in the passenger seat, clutching her messenger bag, watching the city blur through rain-streaked windows. "Who are we meeting?" she asked, breaking the silence that had settled between them. "An old friend," Keanu replied, his eyes on the road. "Someone I trust. He works in private security now, but he has a background in law enforcement and military intelligence. And he'll help us find Lucy? He'll help us understand what we're dealing with." Keanu navigated through the city with the ease of someone who knew its streets well, eventually pulling into the parking lot of a nondescript office building in a commercial district about 20 minutes from the coffee shop. "Wait here for a moment," he said, putting the car in park. He stepped out into the rain and approached a black SUV parked several spaces away. A man emerged from the vehicle, tall, broad-shouldered, with close-cropped silver hair. Even from a distance, Mia could see he carried himself with the unmistakable bearing of someone with military training. The two men spoke briefly, both occasionally glancing toward the Volvo where Mia waited. After a few minutes, Keanu beckoned her to join them. Pulling her hood up against the rain, Mia hurried across the parking lot. "Mia, this is John," Keanu said when she reached them. "John, this is Mia Chen." "Miss Chen," John nodded curtly. His expression was unreadable, his pale blue eyes assessing her with professional detachment. "Let's get out of this rain," he added, gesturing toward the office building. They followed him through a side entrance and up a flight of stairs to a small, sparsely furnished office. A desk dominated the center of the room, flanked by filing cabinets. Maps of Vancouver and the surrounding region covered one wall. John closed the door behind them and turned to Mia. "Keanu tells me your sister is missing." "Yes," Mia confirmed. 3 days ago. "And she left a note directing you to find him specifically?" John raised an eyebrow, glancing at Keanu. Mia produced the photograph again, handing it to John. He examined it carefully, front and back. "I've never met her," Keanu reiterated, "which makes this whole situation unusual." John set the photograph on the desk and sat down, gesturing for them to take the chairs opposite him. "Tell me everything," he said to Mia. "Start with your sister's work. What exactly was she researching?" "She's a PhD candidate in environmental science," Mia explained. "Her thesis is on the environmental impact of industrial development along the British Columbia coastline. She's been collecting data from various sites, measuring contamination levels, wildlife impacts, that sort of thing." "Was she focusing on any particular industry or company?" Mia hesitated. "She mentioned a corporation called Novatech several times in our conversations. They have facilities up and down the coast. Lucy said they were particularly resistant to environmental oversight." John's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in his eyes at the mention of the company name. "Novatech," he repeated. "Interesting." He turned to his computer and typed rapidly for a few moments. "Novatech Bioresearch, founded 15 years ago, specializes in marine biotechnology. Their public research focuses on pharmaceutical applications of marine organisms, but they have several classified government contracts as well." He swiveled the monitor so they could see a satellite image of a large facility nestled on a cliff overlooking the Pacific Ocean, about an hour's drive north of Vancouver. "This is their primary research facility," John said. "Very secure, very private." Mia leaned forward, studying the image. "That looks like the building in the background of Lucy's photo," she said, pointing. John looked at the photograph again, comparing it to the satellite image. "You're right," he confirmed. "This is where your sister was when this picture was taken." "But why would she be there?" Mia asked. "And why would she think Keanu would know what to do if something happened to her?" John and Keanu exchanged a look that Mia couldn't interpret. "Novatech has been on our radar for some time," John said carefully. "There have been rumors about their research. Nothing concrete enough for an official investigation, but enough to raise concerns among certain circles." "What kind of rumors?" Mia pressed. "The kind that suggests their marine biotechnology research might have applications beyond pharmaceuticals," replied. "Military applications." He turned to Keanu. "Remember that situation in Manila 3 years ago?" Keanu nodded grimly. "The research vessel." "What are you talking about?" Mia demanded. "What does this have to do with my sister?" John sighed. "Miss Chen, what I'm about to tell you doesn't leave this room. Understood?" Mia nodded, her throat suddenly dry. 3 years ago, a research vessel operating in the South China Sea was found adrift. All crew members were dead, not from violence but from what appeared to be a rapidly progressing neurodegenerative condition. The vessel was registered to a shell company that we later traced back to Novatech. "My God," Mia whispered. "The official story was that they encountered a toxic algal bloom," John continued. "But the autopsy results didn't match known algal toxins. Whatever killed those people was something new." "And you think Lucy discovered something about this?" Keanu asked. "It's possible," John agreed. "If she was collecting environmental samples near Novatech facilities, she might have found evidence of something they didn't want found." "But why would she think Keanu could help?" Mia insisted. "It still doesn't make sense." John and Keanu exchanged another look. "Keanu has been involved in certain philanthropic efforts that aren't publicized," John said carefully. "Efforts to expose corporate environmental crimes, particularly those with potential human health impacts." Mia turned to Keanu, who shrugged slightly. "I try to help where I can," he said simply, "but I do it quietly." "Your sister might have learned about this aspect of Keanu's life through her environmental activism circles," John suggested. "These communities often have information networks that operate under the radar." "So what do we do now?" Mia asked, the desperation clear in her voice. "If Novatech has my sister?" "We don't know that," John cautioned. "Let's not jump to conclusions." He turned back to his computer and pulled up another screen. "I have a contact at the Vancouver Police Department. Let me see what I can find out about their investigation." After a few minutes of typing and a brief phone conversation, John looked up with a frown. According to their files, Lucy Chen was last seen leaving her apartment on campus 3 days ago. Security footage shows her getting into a black SUV with government plates. "Government plates?" Keanu asked, his brow furrowed. "That's what's interesting," John replied. "When they ran the plates, they came back registered to the Department of Fisheries and Oceans. but when they contacted the department, they were told no vehicles were dispatched to UBC that day. So someone is using government plates as a cover, Keanu concluded. Most likely, John agreed. And there's something else. The police report notes that Lucy's apartment showed signs of having been searched, carefully but thoroughly. Mia felt a chill run through her. They were looking for something. Her research data, perhaps, John suggested, or evidence of whatever she discovered. He stood up, decision made. I need to make some calls, reach out to some contacts. In the meantime, you two should go somewhere safe. If Novatech is involved and they've taken Lucy, they might be looking for you too, Mia. She's been staying at a hotel downtown, Keanu said. We should get her things and move her somewhere less obvious. John nodded in agreement. I know a place. I'll text you the address. As they prepared to leave, John placed a hand on Keanu's shoulder. Be careful, he said quietly. If this is what we think it is, these people won't hesitate to remove any perceived threats. I understand, Keanu replied. Keep me updated. As they walked back to the car, Mia felt the weight of her situation pressing down on her. 3 days ago, she had been a normal graduate student in Seattle, worried about her thesis deadline. Now she was caught up in what sounded like a conspiracy involving covert research, corporate cover-ups, and potentially her sister's life. Do you really think we can find her? She asked Keanu as they got into the car. Yes, he said, his voice firm with conviction. We'll find her, Mia, I promise. Chapter 4, The Evidence. The hotel room where Mia had been staying was a standard mid-range accommodation in downtown Vancouver, a queen-sized bed, a desk by the window, and a small bathroom. It had been her base of operations for the past 3 days as she'd searched for Lucy. Pack quickly, Keanu advised, standing by the door. Just the essentials. Mia nodded and pulled her suitcase from the closet. She hadn't unpacked much, so gathering her belongings didn't take long. As she zipped the suitcase closed, her phone rang. It's Lucy's roommate, she said, showing Keanu the screen before answering. Emily, what's wrong? Mia's expression shifted from concern to alarm as she listened. When? Are you sure? A pause. No, don't touch anything. I'm coming right now. She ended the call and turned to Keanu. Someone broke into Lucy's apartment. Emily just got home and found the place ransacked. We need to go there, Keanu said immediately. There might be something the first searchers missed, something that could tell us where Lucy is. They left the hotel and drove quickly to the University of British Columbia campus, where Lucy shared an apartment with Emily just a few blocks from the Environmental Sciences building. By the time they arrived, the late afternoon rain had finally slowed to a drizzle. Emily was waiting for them outside the building, a tall young woman with short blonde hair and anxious eyes. She did a double take when she saw Keanu. You're... Yes, Keanu interrupted gently. Mia told me about Lucy. Can you show us the apartment? Emily nodded, still looking slightly dazed, and led them up to the second floor. The apartment door showed no signs of forced entry, but inside was chaos. Furniture had been overturned, books pulled from shelves, papers scattered across the floor. I found it like this when I got back from my lab, Emily explained, her voice shaking slightly. I've been staying with my boyfriend the last few nights. After Lucy disappeared, I didn't want to be alone here. Did you call the police? Keanu asked. Not yet, Emily admitted. I called Mia first because, well, look at this. She led them to Lucy's bedroom, which had suffered the worst of the destruction. The mattress had been slashed, the desk drawers emptied onto the floor, and the closet contents strewn about. Emily pointed to the wall above Lucy's desk, where someone had spray-painted a single word in red, silence. This isn't a random break-in, Emily said, stating the obvious. Mia stood in the doorway, her face pale. They're trying to scare us. Or warn us, Keanu suggested, his expression grim. He began to carefully move through the debris on the floor, examining papers and books. Which of these are related to Lucy's research? Emily knelt down and started sorting through the mess. These folders here, they're her field notes, and that laptop was her backup computer. She always kept her main one with her. Keanu picked up the laptop. Is it password protected? Probably, Emily said. But I might know it. We used to share passwords for emergencies. She took the laptop and tried several combinations before the screen finally unlocked. I'm in, she announced, but I'm not sure what we're looking for. Recent files, Keanu suggested. Anything related to Novatech. Emily navigated through the computer while Mia and Keanu continued searching the physical debris. After a few minutes, Emily gasped, "I found something. A hidden folder labeled insurance." They gathered around the laptop as Emily opened the folder. Inside were dozens of files, photographs, documents, and video files. "Look at the dates," Mia pointed out. "These are all from the last 2 months." Emily opened one of the video files. The screen showed Lucy sitting at this very desk, looking directly at the camera. She appeared tired, with dark circles under her eyes, but her voice was steady as she began to speak. "If you're watching this, then something has happened to me. I hope it's just my paranoia, but the things I've discovered at Novatech make me believe I'm in danger." Mia's hand flew to her mouth. Keanu placed a steadying hand on her shoulder as Lucy continued. "I've been collecting water and soil samples near Novatech's coastal facilities for my thesis. The contamination levels were concerning but expected for industrial sites. What wasn't expected was the presence of an unidentified compound in every sample. It didn't match any known industrial pollutant in the databases." Lucy ran a hand through her hair, a gesture so familiar that Mia felt a pang of grief and worry. "I isolated the compound and ran tests. It's some kind of synthetic neurotoxin that binds to marine organisms. It bioaccumulates in the food chain, meaning higher concentrations in larger predators. In the lab, exposure to concentrated amounts caused rapid neurodegeneration in test subjects." Lucy leaned closer to the camera, her voice dropping. "Last week I was approached by someone claiming to be from the Department of Fisheries and Oceans. He said they were aware of my research and wanted to collaborate, but something felt off. I did some digging and discovered the man doesn't work for the government at all. He works for Novatech." She took a deep breath. "I've hidden copies of my research data in several locations. One set is with someone I trust completely, a fellow environmental activist who has connections to people with the power to expose Novatech. If you're watching this, Emily or Mia, and I'm missing, you need to find Keanu Reeves." Keanu and Mia exchanged glances. "I know it sounds crazy," Lucy continued, as if anticipating their reaction. "But through the activist network, I learned that he's been secretly funding investigations into corporate environmental crimes. He has the connections to get this information to the right people, people who can't be bought or threatened by Novatech." Lucy's expression became resolute. "The files in this folder contain everything I've found. Test results, location data, and evidence linking Novatech to the neurotoxin. There's also evidence suggesting they're developing it as a bioweapon, disguised as environmental research." She looked directly into the camera, her eyes determined. "If I disappear, it means they found out what I know, but they can't bury the truth if others have the evidence. Find Keanu Reeves. Tell him Silent Tide. He'll know what to do." The video ended, leaving the three of them staring at the frozen image of Lucy's face. "Silent Tide," Keanu repeated quietly. "That's a code phrase used within the environmental activism network I support. It signals an urgent biocontamination threat requiring immediate attention." "So Lucy was right about you," Mia said, a mixture of relief and apprehension in her voice. "Yes," Keanu acknowledged, "though I don't know how she learned about my involvement. I'm very careful to keep it private." "What do we do now?" Emily asked, looking between them. "First, we need to secure this evidence," Keanu said decisively. "Then we need to—" He was interrupted by the sound of a car engine outside. They moved to the window and saw a black SUV pulling up in front of the building. "Down!" Keanu ordered sharply, pulling both women away from the window just as a beam of light swept across it. "Is there another way out of this apartment?" he asked Emily urgently. "The fire escape," she replied, pointing to the window in Lucy's bedroom. "Grab the laptop," Keanu instructed Mia. "Emily, is there anything else here that contains Lucy's research?" Emily quickly retrieved a small external hard drive from a hollowed-out book that had been tossed onto the floor. She kept backups on this. They heard footsteps on the stairs outside the apartment. "Time to go," Keanu said, leading them to Lucy's bedroom window. He opened it quietly and helped Emily onto the fire escape first. Then Mia, with the laptop clutched to her chest. Just as he was about to follow them, they heard the click of the apartment door opening. "Go," Keanu whispered to them. "Get to the parking lot. I'll distract them. But, Mia began to protest. Go, Keanu insisted. I'll meet you at my car in 5 minutes. Reluctantly, Mia followed Emily down the fire escape as Keanu slipped back into the living room. Chapter 5. The pursuit. Keanu pressed himself against the wall next to Lucy's bedroom door, listening as multiple sets of footsteps entered the apartment. He heard low voices, 3 men, he estimated, speaking in hushed, professional tones. Check all the rooms, one of them ordered. Find the research data and any correspondence about it. The place is already torn apart, another voice observed. Someone beat us here. Could be the roommate, the first voice replied. Or the sister from Seattle. Keanu tensed. They knew about Mia. That meant they'd been monitoring Lucy's communications, perhaps for weeks. He heard footsteps approaching Lucy's bedroom and made a split-second decision. Instead of hiding, he positioned himself behind the door as it swung open. A man in a dark suit stepped into the room, his attention immediately drawn to the open window. Keanu moved swiftly, clamping one hand over the man's mouth while using his other arm to apply pressure to the carotid artery in his neck, a technique he'd learned during his training for action films. Within seconds, the man slumped unconscious. Keanu eased him to the floor silently, then removed the man's earpiece and gun, tucking the weapon into his waistband. Through the earpiece, he could hear the other men checking the kitchen and bathroom. He moved to the window and climbed onto the fire escape, pulling the window closed behind him. He descended rapidly, jumping the last few feet to land in the shrubs below. Staying low, he circled around to the front of the building, sticking to the shadows. In the parking lot, he spotted Mia and Emily crouched behind a parked car, about 30 yards from his Volvo. As he watched, one of the men from the SUV emerged from the building entrance, scanning the area. Keanu saw the telltale bulge of a holstered weapon beneath the man's jacket. He needed a distraction. Spotting a car with an alarm fob visible on its dashboard, Keanu broke the window with his elbow, triggering the car's alarm. Instantly, lights began flashing and the piercing wail of the alarm cut through the evening air. The man by the building entrance turned toward the noise, his hand moving inside his jacket. Keanu used that moment to sprint toward Mia and Emily. My car now, he said as he reached them, keeping his voice low despite the blaring alarm. They ran in a crouch, using parked cars as cover, until they reached the Volvo. Keanu unlocked it with his remote, and they piled in, Emily in the back seat, Mia in the passenger seat with the laptop still clutched to her chest. Keep your heads down, Keanu instructed as he started the engine. He pulled out of the parking spot and drove at a normal speed toward the exit, lights off. In his rearview mirror, he saw the men from the apartment running toward their SUV. They're coming after us, Mia said, twisting to look back. I know, Keanu replied calmly. Hold on. As they reached the campus exit, Keanu suddenly accelerated, cutting across 2 lanes of traffic and taking a sharp right turn that sent them heading downtown. Horns blared as other drivers swerved to avoid them. Do either of you know this area well? Keanu asked, checking his mirrors. The black SUV had made the turn and was closing the distance. I do, Emily said from the back seat. I've lived here for 3 years. We need somewhere crowded, with multiple exits, Keanu told her, taking another sudden turn down a side street. Somewhere we can lose them on foot, if necessary. The Pacific Center Mall, Emily suggested immediately. It's huge, has multiple street-level entrances, and connects to the SkyTrain station. Perfect. How do I get there from here? Emily leaned forward between the seats, directing him through a series of turns designed to shake their pursuers. Keanu drove with precision, his movements economical and calculated, like a man who'd spent considerable time behind the wheel in high-pressure situations. The black SUV stayed with them, though Keanu managed to keep at least 2 blocks between them at all times. As they neared downtown, traffic thickened, providing better cover. We need to ditch this car, Keanu said. They're probably tracking it somehow. There's a parking garage connected to the mall, Emily told him. 3 levels, multiple entrances and exits. Keanu nodded and followed her directions to the garage entrance. He took the ticket from the automated booth and drove up to the top level, which was only half full at this evening hour. Once we park, grab only what's essential and be ready to move quickly, he instructed as he pulled into a space near the elevator. Emily, is there a service entrance or loading dock in this mall? Yes, on the lower level, she confirmed. Delivery trucks use it. That's our exit then, Keanu decided. We'll go through the mall and out that way. They left the car and hurried to the elevator, Mia carrying Lucy's laptop in her messenger bag, Emily clutching the external hard drive. The elevator took them down to the mall level, opening onto a brightly lit, bustling shopping center. Walk normally, Keanu advised as they stepped out among the shoppers. Stay close to me. They moved through the crowded mall, Keanu occasionally checking behind them for any sign of pursuit. After about 5 minutes of walking, he spotted two men in dark suits entering from the direction of the parking garage, scanning the crowds methodically. They're here, he said quietly. We need to split up temporarily. He guided them behind a large promotional display for a new smartphone. Emily, take Mia through the food court to the service corridor you mentioned, he instructed. I'll create a diversion to draw them away, then meet you at the loading dock in 10 minutes. What kind of diversion? Mia asked, concern evident in her voice. Nothing dangerous, Keanu assured her with a hint of a smile. Just a little chaos. 10 minutes, loading dock. Before they could protest further, he slipped away into the crowd. Keanu made his way to the mall's central atrium, where a small stage had been set up for some kind of promotional event. Signs announced a meet and greet with a local radio personality starting in 30 minutes. The stage was currently empty except for audio equipment. Perfect. He approached the unmanned audio control board at the side of the stage, glancing around to make sure the men in suits weren't nearby. With practiced ease, the result of decades on film sets, he adjusted several settings on the board, then turned all the volume sliders to maximum and activated all the microphones. The result was immediate and ear-splitting. Feedback screeched through the mall's speaker system at deafening volume. Shoppers covered their ears, security personnel rushed toward the stage, and general confusion erupted. In the chaos, Keanu spotted the two men in suits changing direction, heading toward the commotion. He slipped away in the opposite direction, making his way through service corridors that his years in the film industry had taught him always existed behind the public areas of any large building. Following the signs for deliveries and loading, he navigated the labyrinthine back hallways of the mall. After several minutes, he emerged into the cavernous loading dock area, where delivery trucks were parked in numbered bays. Mia and Emily were already there, waiting anxiously by an emergency exit door. That was you, wasn't it? Emily asked as he approached. The audio system. Keanu nodded. It bought us some time, but we need to keep moving. Those men are professionals. They'll check all exits, including this one. Where do we go now? Mia asked, clutching her messenger bag containing Lucy's laptop. John texted me an address while I was driving, Keanu replied, checking his phone. It's a safe house about 20 minutes from here. He peered through the small window in the emergency exit door, checking for any signs of their pursuers. Seeing none, he pushed the door open, triggering its alarm. One more bit of confusion to cover their tracks. They emerged into an alley behind the mall where delivery trucks were queued. Without breaking stride, Keanu approached a taxi that was waiting at the service entrance. Evening, he said to the driver as they got in. Canada Place, please. As the taxi pulled away, Mia gave him a questioning look.